Hello.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good.
It's
Thank
a
you so
pleasure
much.
to meet you.
She was once considered one of the most hated people in America.
I was hated more than O.J. Simpson.
You received death threats?
Right, thousands of death threats, yes.
Nadya Suleman, branded as Octomom back in 2009.
I'm known from the beginning why I was the target of misplaced hate. I'm not married. There's a serious bias there. Not enough money. Basically, those are the primary components as to why I was the target of global scorn, condemnation, and all that misplaced hate.
The single mother from California was vilified for giving birth to octuplets, 8 babies conceived via in vitro fertilization.
The intense interest in the octuplets has left this now very large family in turmoil.
The fact that she already had 6 young children drew the ire of many across the country. Berated on talk shows like Oprah.
You had these 8 kids when you could not afford the 6 kids to begin with.
Dr. Phil raising questions of what kind of doctor would do this.
The doctor knows that the mother is unemployed, doesn't have her own home, has 6 kids because they're in the waiting room.
Some asking, how could a woman with no job raise so many kids on her own?
How will she take care of 14 children in this 1,500 square foot house?
Nadya Suleman is here. Her first porn is out.
Suleman ultimately turning to pornography, promoting it on Dr. Drew's HLN show.
Octomom, Home Alone, it's available.
But now she's sharing her highly publicized story on her terms, through a new lens, and using her birth name, Natalie.
Why is now, for you, the right time to come back into the spotlight and bring your kids into the spotlight?
My whole family wants us to share our truth, to take our narrative back.
Break down some of those misconceptions. What are the things that you think the public got wrong?
There's so many.
Those misconceptions, as she calls them, starting at conception. In 2008, Suleman went through IVF to, in her words, complete her family with a 7th child.
I think the biggest question that loomed large then, and I think perhaps even now, is that when you had 6 kids,
Right.
as a single mom,
Right.
and no job,
Right.
why go and have more?
Right. I go into details, so many details as to the ulterior motive for wanting one more. That's the number one misconception. Not just the fame. I never wanted fame, but I never wanted 8. I ended up with 8. I only wanted one more.
Suleman executive producing an upcoming scripted movie, I Was Octomom.
Octomom had 8 babies just to be famous.
These are all lies.
And producing a new 6-part docuseries, Confessions of Octomom, both airing on Lifetime.
Octomom.
The documentary introducing those octuplets, now full-on teenagers at 16.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Your kids really do redeem you in a way.
They're teenagers now. Aside from all their fighting, they're arguing, they are some of the most grounded, humble, kind, just genuine human beings I've ever met.
Along with her 6 older children, the 2 eldest, now 22 and 23.
I joked for years, that's mom, that's dad. That's mom, that's dad. And then they're my parents, but they're not.
She's like a child in an adult body.
The brood of 14 peeling back the curtain on their home life and being fiercely protective of their big family and its matriarch.
How does it feel when you see mom in disguise, even though we're not in the sun?
It's just natural. I'm just used to it.
Suleman says she rarely leaves home without hiding her identity.
Why do you feel the need to wear a mask in public?
So number 1, it's a sun to protect my skin. Number 2 is, people. So it's a multifaceted hat. People, social anxiety hat. Sun number 1, rain, germs, everything.
The docuseries also teasing a big reveal.
Why did you sit down with this?
I was the sperm donor.
What do your kids ask about who the sperm donor is, who
Right.
their father is?
Right. Well, it was an anonymous sperm donor, and I was transparent with them since they were young. So they do know, and I go into detail also in the docuseries.
Were you addicted to having babies?
I believe it wasn't an addiction per se. There were so many factors. I was hyper-focused on children. I wanted a big family, not this big, but I wanted a big family.
Suleman, who says she suffered from endometriosis, turned to Dr. Michael Kamrava, who performed IVF for all her prior pregnancies.
He had always, from the beginning, he transferred at 5 to 6. So based upon my past reproductive history, he followed that. Whereas, yes, the recommendation is 2 embryos should be transferred.
In the docuseries, Suleman reflecting on the shocking news.
What did I do? What did I do to my family? My kids. That was horrible. Horrible.
Suleman also sharing she initially thought she'd be delivering 7 babies, making it an extremely high-risk pregnancy.
So after 7th, a resident went and examined the uterus, make sure everything is okay, and he felt a hand.
And I put my hands in there, and I said, there is another baby.
Suleman's parents took care of her 6 older kids while she recovered from the birth at the hospital, when her life changed forever.
There's 6 boys and 2 girls, and currently they're stable. And according to the neonatologist, they're actually doing fine at the present time.
She was almost instantly thrust into the spotlight just days after giving birth to the only surviving octuplets in history. But she says she never wanted that fame.
I am beyond introverted. I'm shy, painfully shy. The reason I ended up in the public eye was because HIPAA was breached. I've been hiding from society since I was young.
Suleman says she thought she'd do one interview on the Today Show and then move on.
How will you feed all these children?
I will feed them. I will do the best I possibly can.
Her story set off a media firestorm. As it unfolded, Suleman's financiers were reaching a breaking point. She says she had to turn to the tabloid media for her livelihood through paid interviews. But even then, she still wasn't making enough.
How did you make financial ends meet?
I did what I needed to do, shame myself, repeatedly sacrifice my integrity in order to provide for my family.
Are you referring to the adult film that you made?
Unfortunately, yes.
Because in the trailer it says something like, oh, you're offered $1 million to do this adult video.
Right. So in the beginning I was, offered that. I turned that down.
I don't want to shame all people who do adult film, but for you, you say you felt you had to shame yourself to put...
I felt there was no other option. I did not come up with this idea on my own.
When the octuplets were 5 years old, Suleman pleaded no contest to welfare fraud for money made on videos and from public appearances while on government assistance. She was given 2 years probation. Suleman also struggled at one point with substance use.
I did go to rehab in 2012, and I was diagnosed with severe PTSD, and that was a direct repercussion of having been thrust into the public eye.
What would you say back to those critics today? All those people, the haters, the shamers, what would you say to them?
There's this epidemic, I think, of our society in particular, engaging in something called downward social comparison, especially how toxic social media is today. And they just disparage, they deprecate people they don't know just to feel better about themselves. I think it's worse today than it's ever been.
I know you say you don't regret having the 8 children, but do you regret going back to that fertility doctor?
I just can't say I regret going back to have one more. The regret I have is definitely not filing a lawsuit against him, because he ultimately lost his license. There was 3 patients, me and 2 others.
Dr. Kamrava lost his medical license in 2011 for gross negligence and repeated negligent acts when he repeatedly transferred an excessive amount of embryos into a patient, resulting in an octuplet pregnancy. Suleman says she's now come out of the other side of the fire and says her kids are her support system.
Do you feel like your kids vindicate you in some ways?
I feel as though my kids know who I really am. All my kids know me just as mom. I'm just mom, except a couple of the older boys, Octomom. But they're just saying that jokingly.
They like to make fun of you.
Yeah, they love to. They know who I am, and they've never seen me as some celebrity.
And even today,
this is my granddaughter.
Suleman's family is still growing.
You became a grandmother.
Oh, yes. She's always over. She is the ultimate light in my life, just the ultimate joy. And she's just turned 6 months. Oh my goodness, she's amazing. I am so, so happy.
Our thanks to Juju. For more on Natalie Suleman's story, watch I Was Octomom this Saturday and the series Confessions of Octomom, streaming March 10th, both on Lifetime.